My parents always joked I wasn't their real kid. I returned the favor at their anniversary party. Growing up, my parents had this hilarious running joke where they'd tell everyone I couldn't possibly be their kid. At restaurants, they'd tell the waiter I was adopted when I ordered something different from them. At school events, they'd laugh with other parents about how the hospital must have switched babies because I was nothing like them. My mom would say things like, our real daughter would have been athletic when I quit soccer for theater. My dad would tell his golf buddies that my love of reading meant I definitely wasn't his, because no kid of his would pick books over sports. They thought it was the funniest thing ever. When I was 13 and dyed my hair black, they told our entire extended family at Thanksgiving that this proved I wasn't theirs because nobody in our family would make such weird choices. Everyone laughed. When I got into art school instead of business school like they wanted, the joke evolved. Now it was, the hospital owes us a refund, and somewhere out there, our real daughter is probably everything we wanted. They'd say this stuff to my face at dinner. They'd say it to strangers who complimented my paintings. They'd say it to my boyfriend when I brought him home. He dumped me later because he said my family dynamic was too weird, and he didn't want to deal with parents who obviously resented their kid. My older brother Jeremy never got these jokes. He was exactly what they wanted. Played football, went to state school for business, married his high school girlfriend, gave them grandkids immediately. At his wedding, my dad's speech included a bit about being grateful they got at least one kid that was definitely theirs. Everyone laughed except my Aunt Diane, who pulled me aside later and said it was cruel. But the worst was when I won a national award for my sculpture work. It was a huge deal. Cash prize, gallery showing, everything. My parents came to the ceremony, and when the presenter asked them how proud they must be, my mom actually said, we're still not convinced she's ours, but if she is, then sure, we're proud. The presenter looked horrified. People in the audience shifted uncomfortably. My dad jumped in with, yeah, we keep waiting for her real parents to show up and claim her. They laughed like it was perfectly normal. That's when I decided they wanted to play this game. I'd play it better. Their 30th anniversary was coming up, and they'd planned this massive party. They asked me to make a speech. I said absolutely. I spent weeks preparing. Not the speech, but everything else. I called my Aunt Diane and asked for all the family photos from before I was born. I found pictures of my mom from right before and after my birth where she looked completely different. I dug up my dad's old yearbook where he had brown eyes, not the green he claimed were dominant in our family. I got creative with some basic photo editing. Nothing crazy, just enough to be convincing. The night of the party came. My parents were holding court at the head table, doing their usual routine. Someone complimented them on raising 2 kids, and my mom said, well, 1.5 since we're not sure about that one, while pointing at me. When it was speech time, Jeremy went first with this emotional tribute. Then it was my turn. I stood up and said I wanted to address something that had been bothering me for years. The room got quiet. I said my parents had always joked about me not being theirs, and I finally understood why. Because they were right. They weren't my biological parents. I pulled out the photos. I showed the one of my mom before my birth looking completely different. I showed my dad's yearbook photo and pointed out the eye color issue. I mentioned how neither of them had any artistic ability, but my real grandmother, who died before I was born, was supposedly a painter. I said I'd been suspicious for years, but their constant jokes made me finally look into it. The room was dead silent. My mother's face went white. My dad started to speak, but I kept going. I said it explained why they never bonded with me, why they always felt disconnected, why they could so easily joke about me not being theirs, because deep down, they knew. I thanked them for raising me anyway, even though I wasn't their real daughter. I said I understood now why they preferred Jeremy, and I didn't blame them because blood matters. Then I said I was grateful they'd kept me despite knowing the truth. My mom started crying. My dad stood up and shouted that this was ridiculous. Of course I was their daughter. My Aunt Diane was trying not to smile. I opened the envelope slowly. Full story on channel, link below.